All right, chest day today, and I'm feeling pretty tired. You know, didn't I got a decent night's sleep, and I've eaten a good amount of food. It's just the further you get, it gets tiring. I'm still hungry. I'm still tired because I've got one cardio session out of the way, but I got to do another hour on the treadmill, and it's it's a little bit monotonous, but I do love it. I think that's what the key to all of this is. It's that I want to do it. And a lot of people complain about it, and I complain about it a little bit, but what I got to remember is I love doing this. It's worth it to me. If you don't love it, don't do it. You know, it's it's tough. It is. And you got to have mental resilience. You got to be willing to not eat anything, if you've run out of calories. You got to be willing to change your diet and get the protein in, prioritize things and not think about taste, but more so think about fuel and fullness, And you got to work out, balls to the wall half the time, without, doing too much to where you get injured. And a lot of guys, they really love it so much, or at least they want the attention from it, that they make the choice to go on steroids. And then boom, you've got health issues, and they got to be willing to take that risk. Some people, they just do it for the love of the game. Others want sponsorships, deals, or anything like that, but they make these crazy choices. And I think personally, a guy like Ronnie Coleman, who genuinely loves bodybuilding, and is at the point where, he's having so many surgeries and he's in so much pain and the steroids did a shit ton to him. He doesn't care because he loved bodybuilding and he wanted to be dominant and he had the genetics. He did what he felt he had to do and he doesn't regret it. That is who you need to be to do something like this, naturally or not. I'm not going to bash anybody for using steroids. If you do steroids and lie about it, that's just, that's silly. You shouldn't do that. Just be honest about it. But using steroids to enhance your physique, if you are willing to make that sacrifice, to worry about this, the side effects later down the line, then you know what? That's your choice. And I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not your dad, But for me, I just want to do it naturally. I want to see how far I can get naturally, what I can become, how I can look. I've already transformed myself I'm way different than when I started. Way different. And I'm happy about that. So, it's worth it to me. But, sometimes people do it for the wrong reasons. And I think you need to enjoy the process and you need to actually love what you're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and start heading to the gym, hit some chest, and I will see you after. All right, I'm feeling pretty solid after that chest day, and I spammed some more lateral raises afterwards, just because I like doing them, you know. And I got one more hour-long cardio session. That's gonna kind of suck, but then I get my bowl. Man, that's gonna be so good. But I was thinking about it more, and I want to succeed. I want to do the best I can. I want to be as lean as I can, and to do that, I got to do the cardio. It sucks to win. Sometimes you got to do things that suck. Any athlete that's at the highest level, no matter how talented they were, they put in some amount of effort. They did those sprints that we all hate. Get on the line, chop your feet. Everybody knows it. It's play sports. And they've put in sacrifice. And sometimes you got to do shit you don't want to do. But that's what you got to do to be great. That's what separates the good from the great. Not eating that donut you want. Going to do that cardio instead of going out with your buddies. Making sure you get rest. And if you don't want to do it, that's okay. And you still want to compete, that's nothing on you. If somebody's not ready but they still want to compete, you shouldn't shame them for it. But if you really want to win, if you want to lock in and do your best, you got to sacrifice. You got to be hungry, But yeah, this is a fun way to put it. Be hungry because you're hungry for a win. Stay hungry. Spread out your meals. Do what you have to do. Get your cardio in. Whatever way you have to do it, do it. I'm of a mind that I'm going to do what it takes to be the best I can be. Am I going to be upset with the results? No, I'm just going to go back to the drawing board and say, all right, what else can I do? How can I lose more fat? Okay, I'll start it earlier or keep my set point lower. It's worth it to me, just like the guys who want to make the NFL or the NBA, or guys who want to succeed in whatever field they're doing. You got to do what it takes. And some people got it, some people don't. And hopefully I'll be a guy that's got it. But that's enough lessons for the day. I'm going to go ahead and get my final cardio session out of the way. I hope you guys find what you're looking for in life, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day. I'll see you tomorrow, and we will be hitting back.